Greetings, everyone. This is Antoinette Roots Data, and I'm coming to you live from California. And I'm doing an interview with Rima Gandura, who's a judge candidate in Oregon. Anyway, so hello, everyone. Greetings, Rima. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. I'm really excited about this conversation that we're about to have. And to get started, I think what I would really love is for people to get to know you a little bit, about who you are, your aspirations, your dreams, how you came to this country, what brought you here, and how we're moving forward and stuff.
Thank you, Antoinette, and thank you for the invitation to speak with you and your audience, and just sort of shed some light on some issues that are not always discussed these days. And let me tell you, do you want to ask me questions, or you want me to just start talking?
Yeah, I want you to start talking first, then I'm going to ask you some specific questions because I did read your op-ed piece about Little Beirut. So if you tell our viewers a little bit about this piece that you've written, I'm going to drop the link back again inside of this, inside the thread, inside the feed and everything, so people can read this story. But if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was born in Beirut in the early 70s. This was right at the beginning of the civil war in Lebanon, based on a lot of religious, well, different religious groups. And the, through the years, it's morphed in different things. And there was in 82, there was a war with Israel. Then there was a Syrian occupation and Syrian occupation also after that. Grew up, my first memories, I, tried to go back, trying to remember what is my first memory. And one of my first memories is being in a bathroom crying with shooting and bombs going on. And as much as I tried to go back, I think I was 3. I just, because I keep asking my mom, when was it? What time was it? And she puts it around the time that I was 3. So
Mm-hmm.
grew up, when you're growing in a civil war, every day is, is it safe today? Can I go to this place? What do
Mm-hmm.
I do? Things I've learned to appreciate a lot more once I became a mom is what my parents were going through, the
Mm-hmm.
separation they had to do to, so my father could go outside the country and earn money and be able to, feed us, house us, educate us, all of that. But also, um, one of the things I tell people, my mom used to make us get separated in the house during bombings because and we would be crying, right? We're 8, 9, and we're like, we want to be together. I want to be with my baby sister. Why are you doing this? And her thing was always, if something happens, I don't want to lose all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I want I want one of you to survive. And so she would put us in different parts. Other friends have told me the opposite. Their mom is like, no, we're all going to be all together, So if we go together. But these are things like you don't appreciate as a young one. In 82, we got this place. We went to Cyprus and lived there for a few months till my savings ran out. And then we went back to Lebanon. And in 83, I we moved to Iraq. So sort of from the frying pan to the fire. This was during the height of the Iran-Iraq war. I graduated high school from there in 1990. And during that time, we had to leave a couple of times because things heated up. So we would go back to Lebanon, and then things would heat up back there, and we'd go back to Iraq. And in 1990, I had to leave Iraq sort of suddenly, and had decided to come to college to the US. It wasn't safe for me to go to Lebanon, even though I got the full scholarship over there to go to the American University. I just, it was not a safe place to be, and decided to come here. My sister was in New York at that time, and that was the only person I knew. And I went to New York and went to college, and decided in college to go to law school, which was sort of a joyful part, but it was a sad part because I knew if once I made that decision, I really couldn't go back to Lebanon and work there. Like I had this this is going to be my new home forever. And I got my citizenship at 20, went to lovely California, San Diego, to get my law degree. And in 2002, moved here with my husband and my 1-year-old son. So that's sort of my story in a nutshell.
Uh-huh. And what
Right.
when you came here and you went to college and you went to school, what possessed you to like pursue a career in law?
Yeah. So growing up, both in Lebanon and Iraq, different regimes, different politics. But in Lebanon, bribery was rampant. If you were somebody with means, you could circumvent the law at any time. If you didn't, um, you were the people in jail were the ones who did it, couldn't bribe their way out of it. If you got hurt, it took forever. I don't know if you can tell, I'm blind in one eye, and
Wow.
that was because of some medical negligence from a doctor who ignored my mom, who kept saying there's something wrong with her eyes, right? And then they botched the surgery. Um, there's no recourse, you
Mhm,
know.
mhm,
So those things were like, okay, things here are different. And then more importantly, growing up in Iraq under a dictatorship, we knew early on, you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have freedom of assembly, you like those, just full on free. Again, if you were in power, you had the power to do whatever it is, make people disappear, make them
mhm,
appear again.
mhm,
So um, as I started learning about the US Constitution and laws, and maybe I was very naive at that time, but I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually laws that people have to follow. There is, we're all supposed to be equal. We all have free speech. Without, again, I was a 19, 20-year-old. I'm like, I want to go into law, right?
mhm.
And that's when I decided to do it.
Wow. And so when you moved to Portland and that's when you started your career, were you working like in a firm or public defenders or
Yeah, so I actually worked in California for 4 years at a, small firm, and then for Orange County Council,
wow.
um, and doing mental health law. And then when I came to Oregon, actually, it was right after 9/11.
Hmm.
Uh, my accent was a lot more pronounced. Um, the legal community in Oregon was very insular, right? And I came to take care of my sister, who um, had major health issues, and it took me over a year to find a job. There
Hmm.
was, you know, there was just no. It was hard to get to know other people in the legal profession. It was very insular.
Were you
I
wearing
actually
I'm sorry,
Go
just a
ahead.
quick question. Were you wearing a hijab at any time?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Hmm. You think that would have prevented you from a lot of doors getting in?
It would have been worse than it was. I mean, it was bad enough as it is, to have student loans and, um, a small child and all these responsibilities, and take over a year after you have 4 years of experience to find a job. It was pretty disheartening. Um, but so I got my first job, actually with an insurance company, but defending small contractors who get sued by, the DR Hortons of the world, the big corporations. And I did that for a few years, and then went to a private firm. And for the last 7.5 years, I've owned my own woman certified firm, doing both plaintiff and defense side injury work, but also anything that comes through the door. Sort of like, small business. If it comes in, if it makes sense, I do it. But it has allowed me to do a lot of pro bono work, which is something I love. And more importantly, it has allowed me to build a practice like I want it to be. A lot of women and people of color leave the practice or leave big firms because it is not as supportive to our lifestyle. It is not
Hmm.
as inviting and welcoming. So when I started the firm, it was with the idea to try to find that balance, not just for me of the life work, but for my staff, for the other attorneys who work for me and with me. And way before COVID, half almost everybody worked from home at least part-time. Some
Mhm.
people worked part-time, some people work full-time, depending on their needs. And when their needs change, they can change how they work. So I love that it has allowed me to do all of this and continue working and supporting different communities with volunteer work through
Mhm.
it. My time was my own.
Now, I've noticed, I've looked at your website, and one of the cover photos on your website is actually the wall with George Floyd. So I guess that's kind of become like an important issue as well too, as far as like how Black Lives Matter. As a lawyer, as a person who lives in Portland, as far as the protests that are going, as far as like the people understanding and seeing the mistreatment and the abuse of police authority or of the justice system, which on our feelings, that we feel is very unequal, that we feel like we're not getting a fair shake or a fair handout regarding justice for Black people.
I mean, this is one of the reasons I am running. I talk through my practice to a lot of people that feel exactly that. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're wearing the hijab, maybe they're Black, maybe they're whatever it is, they're not the mainstream. They're not, and I hear that they have righteous cases that should be brought, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
afraid. They're
Mm-hmm.
afraid that they're going to get in and they're going to be judged on something other than the merits of their case,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a lot of people that look at them like them that
Mm-hmm.
are doing the judging, right? That's where representation matters. Um, it's been painful for me to sometimes have to tell my clients, like, you have a really great case, but we are in this jurisdiction, whatever it happens to be, and that's going to devalue your case. Not
Mm-hmm.
because your case is not great, but
Mm-hmm.
because who you are, right? That is a painful thing to actually have to think about. It's a painful thing for me as an attorney, where there has been times where in the best interest of my client, I have felt that I may have to bring somebody else with me
Mm-hmm.
that maybe doesn't have an accent, maybe doesn't have a strange name,
Mm-hmm.
so that they don't get judged on me.
Mm-hmm.
Their case doesn't get judged on me. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, Black Lives Matter. It's all of these issues are so intersectional. You look what's happening to children in cages. You look what happened with the Muslim ban. These issues are all related. It's different, right? But still, there's these threads of sameness coming through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
My husband's
you know,
brother is is Muslim, and his wife is that makes my nieces and nephews Muslim as well too. When this ban actually took place, they weren't allowed into the country at all. They're
mm,
UK citizens, and it wasn't just them. It was basically everybody else by having a Muslim name, being ethnic, being of practicing of that religion. I mean, it was a total block completely. Nobody was allowed into the country. And if they were allowed in the country, then there might be some form of detention or some form of being held or something else. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life, not in this country. We're really like banning an entire group of people, you know.
yeah, and it was done. The first one was done. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but it was done in such a chaotic manner that even groups of people that were not necessarily included, the
Mm-hmm.
people who were monitoring, other countries who are like, oh, can you get on the plane? Can you get on the plane? They didn't know what was going on. They did not have criteria of who is it. So there were green card holders. There
Mm-hmm.
was, as you said, national citizens who were
Mm-hmm.
getting caught, even though technically the ban didn't apply. But the way it was done, it was an overnight thing.
Mm-hmm.
Airports, one of the things, because of my work with the Arab American Cultural Center, I was getting calls from people whose, sisters, wives, mothers, fathers were getting stuck in airports all over the world and in the US. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was getting on the phone with people I knew, at different airports and saying, what are you being told? Why is this green card holder not being allowed to get in when the ruling doesn't? And they're like, this, we don't know. We were told this and we just don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when you do something so um, badly,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be purposeful,
Mm-hmm. And
right? And it is to increase that fear, right? The fear and chaos, and so people don't feel safe, don't want to come even if they can anymore,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So
I understand. I used to live in New York, so I was there during 9/11, and I saw what was happening in New York regarding the profiling. The profiling went off from black people into brown people. So everybody who looks brown, um, or Middle Eastern, they were all being the targets. This was
yeah,
happening for quite a few years, and that included Sikhs. It
yeah,
included just brown people, included Hispanics. They just couldn't tell, and then anybody with any type of wrap on their head or anything. And I was like, well, people don't understand. It's like not all Muslims look the same.
no, they
Just
don't.
looking at you, I think people will probably say that you're Hispanic. You know,
Yeah. Well,
and
I can tell you, not looking this what the stereotype of what an Arab or a Muslim looks like didn't
mhm,
necessarily help when as I said, I moved to Oregon right in 2002, very close to 9/11, and before I moved, I was flying with my son, like I think it was like 3 to 4 times to try to find an apartment to live in, and start setting, and not once, not twice, more, at least 3 times, I would be pulled, first security, second security, and sort of one of the um, fun memories, not fun, is being even pulled after going like first check, second check at the gate door, and being asked to take my baby's diaper off for
mm,
them to check on bombs.
mhm,
It's sort of the dehumanizing who you are. I mean, here's a mom. Obviously, I'm a mom.
yes,
They're letting me through with my son. They know it's my son,
mhm,
and I am this horrible monster that's going to put a weapon or a bomb or something in my baby's diaper. Right?
mhm.
I mean, if you can, I know but like that feeling of, again, being looked at as this monster, as this other that doesn't even have basic decency, right?
Mhm.
Is pretty hurtful.
I'm used to profiling at the airports, all the airports. I wear a head wrap. They make me take off my head wrap. They want to put their fingers through my hair and other stuff. But it was very humiliating when I was traveling with my daughter. She was like under 10 years old. She was just a little child. And she had dreadlocks. And after going through first security, second security, third security, and then the fourth security, right before boarding the plane, they singled her out of line. 200 people boarding this plane, and they pull her out and insist that she's got you know something planted on her. I said, you really think I would plant a bomb on my
On
child,
my baby. On my
on
baby.
my baby? And she doesn't understand what's actually happening, so she's very lost and very confused, and I have to sit there and try to be strong for her, and try to explain to her. It's like, how do you tell your child? And she's like, but they're not doing this to anybody else. Why are they doing this to me? To your only little girl. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
and what do you do, right? This is where, there's somebody with authority over you, right? So if you
mhm.
argue, it's just going to get worse.
Oh, definitely. I'm
So
always the one arguing and debating, so I'm always the angry black woman and stuff. And I always felt like there's so much more that I need to know. It's like I'm not going to be able to go to college and take years and years and years of studying law, but there's just like certain basic rights that I feel that a lot of people should also know.
yeah,
And also, too, what's happening now, like with everything that we're trying to go in just to change the idea of profiling, the whole guise of systematic racism and how it works within the system. It's like, how are we going to fix things past the protest? Us, complaining and being mad and upset, and it's like everything needs to change. But in order for things to change, we physically, actively have to do something, whether we voice our opinions or we get people of different diversity and representation within the system itself, because the system is always going to be against us unless we actually change the system that actually represents us and support us as individuals with our own basic decent human rights. you
I
know.
mean, and you know, Antoinette, I mean, that's why one of the main reasons I'm running
Mhm.
for office is
Yes.
representation matters, representation matters, representation matters. It matters who is there when somebody comes in the court. Is there people who look like them? Are there
Mhm.
people who sound like them? Are there
Mhm.
people who have the same lived experiences like them? Right?
Yeah.
Those are important issues. But it's not just only representation. It's representation, it's experience, but it's also having an active lens to look at the problems and try to find them. I mean, I'm not in the court now. I know there's issues, but I will guarantee you, once I'm in and if I'm actively looking to things that prevent access,
Mhm.
there will be plenty. But it's you need people who will actively look and then will do something about it, right?
Mhm.
Not go, that's the way it's been for
Mhm.
40 years. Like, why are we going to change it now? What are the reasons? You need somebody to be able to recognize and shed the light and then force these discussions to happen.
True.
So that's one way. I mean, there's many ways of bringing change. That's one way of doing it, is whether it's you know, in the judicial system, whether it's in the legislature, right, is bringing these different voices who see things differently
Yes.
and can point them out.
Definitely. And one of the things that we'll be doing coming up as well too is that my husband wants to interview some of the lawyers, some of the women lawyers that have responded to our calls, you know, to action. And I think this is really exciting, you know, how the women are stepping up. You know, that's one of my biggest proponents is like Daughters of the Divine Mother. It's like, look at these incredible women. We see things in a different manner. You know, we are the moral standard bearers, you know, nothing against men or anything else like that, but it's just not enough of this diversity between the masculine and the feminine, and also being in positions of power. You know, positions of power as lawyers, positions of power as judges, positions of power as legislators, you know, as congresswomen, as congresspeople. So I think like equaling out that balance also helps as well too, because we need to hear that diversity in the voices, and we need to hear the diversity from the women themselves, you know, coming about to bring about positive change, you know. So I'm really encouraging that you know, people start to like think about other ways of how they can actually become involved, to actually pay attention to what's happening locally, you know, within, you know, the court systems, within how the laws are representing or not representing us. You know, education, this is like a lifelong process. um, Systematic racism, injustice, these things will not just go away overnight or within a couple weeks or a couple months. This is going to be something that is like a lifelong process that we will continue to have to work on all fronts and stuff, you
I agree. I agree.
know.
It's not an overnight. It's not a one solution. It's not a one way method, right? It's this problem has been around for a long time, and it's going to take all kinds and all sorts to fix it. But most importantly is the desire and the willingness for action to fix it, right?
That's wonderful. Do you have any final thoughts for our viewers as far as like, you know, the hope that you want to see, the changes that you want to bring about, and, you know, and the service that you're doing for your community?
You know, I know we all say we are all in this together, but we really are. We, whether you go out and you help um, provide food for people, food insecurity right now is huge.
Hmm.
um, you can do little things. I mean, everybody has different time, ability to do things or time constraints, right? But you can do something from the 15 to half an hour. Go find somebody who needs help finding their voting place, to, you know, spending 10 hours a day doing things. But just, we're all in this together. It takes all kinds of
Hmm.
effort. Just
Yes.
do it. Do something, you know.
I agree. And I'm going to accept help from everybody. I don't care what color you are. You know, we are all in this together. We're all, you know, we're in different boats, but we still have the same storms and the same rocky roads and everything else like that. But, you know, I do appreciate it. So thank you so much, Rima.
Thank you so much, Antoinette, for inviting me, and let's keep making change.
Yes, let's keep making changes. Let's keep the discussions going. And then, you know, whatever happens, you know, we're still going to be looking out for everything that you're doing, all the work that you're doing and stuff, you know, and just bringing more attention and more awareness and stuff. So thank
Thank
you.
thank you so much.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.